We would get you a place to stay. You change your name. You couldn't tell anyone at home who you were or what your new name is. You can't work as an electrician because you weren't an electrician. It would blow your cover. You can't work in a bar because you've done that already, and this is the way that they would find you. So you had to go to do something completely different. I asked, like what? And he said, well, we could train you as a carpenter. I wasn't told what was going to happen. I just took it that there was something in place to protect us and look after us. I want a witness protection program in place that suits people like me for coming forward, because there's nothing there for decent people. At the minute, I feel it only benefits criminals that want to come out of gangs.
Wayne Dundon is one criminal who'd love to see the back of Steve Collins.
They've taken my son now, and he's buried close to us now, and we have the comfort of that I can go and visit his grave every day if I want. They're not going to run me out of town now. Not now. The people of Limerick are sick of this. They're sick of the city being blighted by these scumbags, because it's a great city for most of the people that live here. They were looking for an opportunity to stand up and say like that, we've enough of this, you know, and please help us. Because if you haven't got witnesses, you haven't got a democracy. The whole thing breaks down. We need the laws that's proposed to be put into place now, and we can reclaim our city. The time for talking now is over.
You can't legislate by emotion, but here was a family who came forward, did their duty, and look what they got, the consequence. Their lives ruined, not just the life of Steve Collins and his wife, but their entire family ruined by this particular instance where they did their duty. So if the state didn't respond to that, if the Oireachtas didn't respond to that, it would be a very sad day for Ireland.
The murder of Roy Collins, just like the assassination of Veronica Guerin 14 years earlier, compelled the government to act. It is now an offence to direct organised crime. Now, for the first time, the Gardaí have the powers to subject crime gangs to intense covert surveillance and wiretaps. Now, for the first time, that evidence can be produced in court to put the bad fellas away.
The gangland crime legislation not only has put huge pressure on these people, but has given the guards the tools to take them off the street. And not just the old idiot who was given a few quid or might have been high as a kite and shot a particular person, but the person who orchestrated that, the people directing. That's the whole point of this legislation.
James Dillon was the impressionable young drug addict who pulled the trigger on Roy Collins. He's now serving life for the murder and his loyalty to the mob.
After 26 Garda interviews and a visit from his grandfather, he admitted to Gardaí, I shot Roy Collins.
If you look at the record of the criminal justice system in Limerick, and particularly the guards, it has been very, very successful, much more successful than anywhere else in the country. In terms of eliminating the gangs and preventing the crime from happening in the first instance, there's a lot more work to be done there.
Organised crime is now a nationwide scourge. But in Limerick, Garda tactics are producing results. The crime bosses who call the shots are feeling the heat. The intense police pressure is paying off. Shooting incidents are down from over 100 in 2007 to just 14 in 2010. Limerick is by no means a lost cause.
I think it is turning the tide a bit now, and if it didn't, I wouldn't think twice about asking the people to come back on the street again and to do it all over again. And I think if we'd done that, it would be massive. Because people now have got confidence since the last march. And I think it will be stronger, it will be bigger, and it will be more in the face of the government to get things changed. Because there's still a lot to change. There's still a lot of laws that could be brought in to change things, to make things safe for our families.
The first cases under the new anti-gang legislation are due in court in early 2011. The underworld will be watching and waiting on the verdicts. In America, similar laws have been around for years. But it took a new vision of policing and a change of heart at the top of City Hall to bring the crime rate in New York down to World War II levels.
There's no reason why any city in Ireland cannot crack down on the crime problems that its citizens view as most significant, whether it's graffiti being out of control, whether it's shoplifting, whether it's disorder or violent crime. It's just a question of the police believing that they have the possibility and the obligation to solve crime through information management, analysis, and accountability.
It absolutely has to be an aggressive approach to tackle organized crime. Increased use of physical surveillance and electronic surveillance, wiretapping laws, increased use of human sources. They have to aggressively be used if there's going to be any success at putting an end to organized crime groups.
It may be that a strategy that's designed for Limerick may not be the strategy for Cork City or for Dublin. That's where the police executives come in and the police on the street come in. They have to tailor, they have to know their community and know what their community wants and the concerns of their community, and then tailor their strategy accordingly. In-your-face policing is, I guess, a good way to put it, but whose face are you getting into? You're getting into a bad guy's face. You're not necessarily getting into the good people. The vast majority of people in all these neighborhoods are good, solid, hard-working people that are trying to raise their families.
I think in New York is a clear example of how a pretty tough regime from a criminal justice point of view is put in place, allied to the resources to try and help ordinary communities.
We'll carry out an equipment check now.
The only way it will be dealt is ordinary policing, blanket policing, and of course, in-your-face policing against these people.
Reds 3 and 4 rendezvous at Formal Point Bravo at 1200 hours.
There certainly is a real challenge when we're trying to deal with organised crime in balancing the rights, the interests, the concerns of a legitimately worried community with the individual that has been investigated or maybe that is being tried before the courts. It's a very precarious balance, but eroding rights won't necessarily make the communities any safer.
The only thing that the psychopath would understand is a force stronger than himself. And in this case, it would have to be the state, if you like, the police.
You know, it's easy for people to criticise in, you know, the leafy suburbs that all this is draconian. Tell that to the people like Steve Collins and families like that, Shane Gagan's family. And that's why the state has to react in a proportionate way, but act it has to do.
You are only talking about 30 or 40 families, and that's perhaps 150, 200 people. You can't let 75 or 80,000 people be held up to ransom by them. I think that, you know, the guards now are coming to realise that they're taking them on, and I think that the law now is an awful lot better in terms of dealing with them than it was in the past.
Good is going to come out of evil, you know, because it was an evil thing that happened to us. And some good will come out of it because people will benefit from these new laws, you know, and that's why I'm proud of the fact that Roy's name is associated with those laws and that people going forward will see the benefits of it and remember them, you know, and if they remember him, and then that's all I ever set out to do at the start, was that he wouldn't just be another number.
In the 1960s, Sarah Era brought the gun onto the Irish crime scene and murdered Garda Richard Fallon.
We had really crossed the Rubicon because now we are into the era of the gun.
The 1970s saw the Provisional IRA emerge to wage a war that left a legacy of extortion, racketeering and murder.
We would not have had a descent into organised crime to the extent that we have unfortunately suffered from. And to me, it is inescapable that the direct causal link is the IRA and the application of organisation to criminal activity.
In the 1980s, the Dunn crime family would get rich on heroin and spawn a succession of ruthless imitators who saw drugs as easy money worth killing for.
I would describe the modern-day criminal as unpredictable, paranoid, and he will go to any length to protect his business.
Guns and drugs bring profits and power. Now, organised crime has ambitions to control streets and whole neighbourhoods, if they can get away with it.
I think that we can deal with organised crime. I think it can be dealt with. I believe we're stronger than them.
The era of the bad fellas has cast a dark shadow over many lives. The lessons of the last 40 years are clear. If Ireland fails to deal with organised crime, then organised crime will deal with us.
And that was the final in the current series. Next week, the trials of Phoebe Prince tells her story from moving to the US in the summer of 2009 to her untimely death earlier this year, now the subject of a bullying prosecution. That's at 9:35. Next here on One, though, The Frontline, and Pat has more details in just a few moments.